let's look at the web service part of it. We have created REST API and we have seen it in the workbench. Now let's take a look at the SOAP API and see how to expose the web services. So basically these are the steps that you would do to expose a web service. So basically you will generate the enterprise web service definition file. A SOAP API requires a web service definition file without which will expose the main methods and the endpoints to the third-party system. Here you don't use the concept of annotations, you will be using a web service definition file. Then you'll have to create a class with the web service definition file of your own class which you have created. Okay, so the class Apex class that you have created, you'll have to create a web service definition file of the same type. So basically you'll have to create the class WSDL, enterprise WSDL, and as I have already discussed in the REST API, you'll have to generate the username, password, token, and also get a session ID and URL prefix. So this will, with these username, password, token, and also the connected app details, with these details you can get a session ID and URL prefix. So you'll invoke the method with the session ID and the correct endpoint URL. So we'll see how to create a SOAP WSDL. I have shared the documentation of how to call it from a Java and what are the steps in that in the documentation part of it. But here we will just see how to generate this. So basically now here compared to the REST API where we created REST resource and global sharing. So here again we have a global with sharing class with this similar. But here now basically you'll create a global with sharing class, but within that you will say not global static, you'll say web service. When you say web service, it will enable you to create a WSDL web service definition of this file. Okay, so let's go back here and see before we continue, just give me a minute here. So let's understand the difference between the WSDL files. The enterprise WSDL is what you will give to the third party along with the user ID, password that those people need to log in. The enterprise WSDL is tied to specific configuration. If you change modification, you'll have to generate the WSDL. There is another partner WSDL which you can generate. It is loosely typed, can be used to reflect against or any configuration. So if any does not need any change, okay, if there is some does not change if modifications are made to the data, it is static. Enterprise WSDL, the benefit is if there is any change in the code or anything, it will also changes. Okay, so that's the benefit of the enterprise WSDL. Basically, enterprise WSDL is what you will give to the third-party integration teams. So now let's take a look and convert this REST call into a API web service. So let's head back to the class that we created. So let's take the same class, REST API class, and make a new class for SOAP account service, we'll call it. So now this is going to be the earlier one which we created was a HTTP REST, but this one is a SOAP API. So let's take this and paste the code here. So let's make the required changes here. First of all, we don't need this part here. We don't need the HTTP post. We don't need the HTTP GET. And now what we need to do here is we need to make all of this into web service. Any variables that we have, any method that we have should be a web service. So here basically what we are going to do here is we'll just return the ID. We'll just return a static ID. Okay. sorry, we'll return a instead of string. Okay, that is fine, we can keep that same thing, and let's not use this one. This method we'll remove. So now we have one web service. We'll make the class global. All integration classes have to be global because they have to be visible across the org, beyond your org. Okay, Control A, Shift Tab. So we have created a variable and a method. So we have a do post method. Let's save it. See any other changes required here. All right, so now let's save it and see what's happening. What's going on? It says we have a problem here. Extras. Okay, so let's remove that extra. Let's save it. So here what's happening is now we have taken the REST web service and converted to global. The changes we did was we made the web service variable as we gave the keyword web service to the method and to the object. Everything else remains the same. So what we will do here is now let's go to the Apex classes and see the SOAP account web service within Salesforce. If you go to Apex class, so how to expose this now to the, now this we cannot test using Workbench now. Okay, so we'll have to generate the WSDL. You can test this using SOAP XML, SOAP UI. So let me see if I can show you that. Yeah, so now suppose you have SOAP UI, you can test this XML. Okay, so couple of things we should see here is when we go to the SOAP class. Okay, now as soon as you make it into a web service, now it will show you here. Can you see this WSDL getting generated? Now the SOAP account service, since you have annotated it as web service, the class, now it will allow you to generate the WSDL. Okay, so if you click on the WSDL, this is the WSDL. Okay, this is the class WSDL. So we have this class, so we click on this WSDL, this class WSDL is generated. So now save this as a class WSDL and just call it SOAP account service. So just save it under the downloads. Okay, or even in desktop, you can save it in desktop as SOAP request. So this is the XML this is a web service definition file. So if you look here, it contains all the required things in the form of the do post, what is the variables that it takes. So it generates the WSDL which is required for the third party. All right, so now next thing we need to do is generate the enterprise WSDL. So if you go to API, you have to search for API in setup, click on API. Now we are generating the enterprise WSDL. Here it will ask you for it will show you all the WSDLs available in your org. So generate the enterprise WSDL. Alright, so it will show you this generate, and it will generate a similar XML file. Now this contains the entire your definition of your org. So any object, everything, it will contain the response of it. Okay, if it wants like say for example, if it needs to get some data for an object, it will get using describe as object. The entire API that is available for that Salesforce provides is packaged within this. Now save this as a enterprise WSDL, or you can call it enterprise.xml. Save it again. So now you have your SOAP request and enterprise XML. Okay, so now do post. How to test this is you have to download a tool called a SOAP UI, and basically what you have to do is you have to create a new project over here. Okay, Salesforce. So what you have to do is you create a new project, create empty project, and give it a name. New SOAP project. Select. So now we are going to test this. Okay, so now you have generated the enterprise XML and you have generated the class XML. So now let's see how this works. Now for testing, we can try to test this. So we'll say new SOAP project and call it like Salesforce 2, and the initial WSDL will be your enterprise WSDL. Okay, so select your enterprise WSDL from the desktop. Enterprise.xml. Let me check whether this is the correct one. Yeah, enterprise.xml. So let's select that. So now what this does is, this is going to generate a, going to create a project based on that. Okay. So now if you see, it has created Salesforce 2 with all the Salesforce bindings. So to test this login, first this is the enterprise WSDL. So first you'll have to get the login and you'll have to send the login and the password. So how do you test this? Basically what you'll do is you'll have to fill up the organization ID. The org ID you will find in your company information or in your user. Okay. Company. Pick up this org ID. This is your org ID and pass it over here. What we'll do is let's use Notepad for this. Let's take the request here, build the request here. So what we are doing is, first we need to log into the org, right? Using a SOAP request. Using our org ID, we are going to log in here. So save control Z. Sorry, pass your org ID here. And no need of portal ID. And your username, password, and just 1 second, I'll have to stop the. So basically you have to log in with a password, whichever it is, and then you have to give the password and the security token. The security token, as I told you, you have to generate it for these scenarios. Okay, so security token can be generated by, if you go to your personal settings in Salesforce, go to personal settings, and in the security setting is a token, security token. Okay. If you reset the security token, you will get the security token in your email. So let me go to my email here. So basically you'll get a security token in your email like this. So you have to take it, this part, and add it to the password part of it. Okay. So you give your login, password, and then your security token. So go ahead and complete this step, and if you want, you can stop here, and you have to give the login, password, and security token. So let me just pause. So now you got to take all of this and copy it into this envelope. So what this is going to do is, this is going to simulate that this is the login method of Salesforce from within the enterprise WSDL. So you can use this, run this, and see. Let's see if we get a success or a failure. So invalid fault. So we have to remove some stuff from here, which is like we don't need the optional header here. So let's take this one again, put it into this. Oh, sorry, I had to add it here. So what it does is, this is now a successful login. Now let's see this. So this actually does a successful login. So this is how the APIs are used. Okay. So, and gives you a session ID. So now you can just import the other one, that is import one, add WSDL. So now you import the class WSDL which you have. So what was that class WSDL? SOAP. It was in the desktop. SOAP, we need to check for the SOAP class. Here we have it somewhere over here. So it is a, yeah, SOAP request account. That was the one. So now let's take that in, and this is going to do a do post. So here are the couple of things we need to add over here in this XML. So let's take this XML over here and park it here. Now so we're going to create a new account called as SOAP account, and active we are going to say yes. Now if you remember, we got a session ID right in this. So we're going to take this session ID here. We had in the previous one, and we can try that out. So basically now what is happening over here is, this is now logged in. we only need till here. Copy this into this new request. You can remove rest of the headers over here, okay? You can remove the rest of the session stuff here. And keep only the SOAP session header and the do post. So what we are basically doing here is now we are going to call the SOAP API method, the web service, and see if we get a result. Okay, so this is the method name, this is the parameters. Now this is the session ID which got generated, right? So let's copy this over here into our, and we need to go back to the other one over here, and let's go try it out. So we are passing the session ID, and now if it is successful, if you see here, the account has got created. So first step what we did is we took the enterprise WSDL and imported it. Out of this we took the login. See, there are two SOAP WSDLs here. This is the enterprise WSDL which we created. Okay. Just a minute. So this is the enterprise WSDL which we created. We took the login request and we gave the login password, org ID and the security token. It gave us a session ID. Using the session ID, what we can now do is we are now calling the other method, and here we are passing data to be created in the account. Okay, so using this we created an account here. We pass the session ID. So the second call we use the WSDL of the class, second class, the SOAP account service binding. Okay, that is the SOAP account service that we created. So this one which we created here, if you go to your developer console, this class is what was invoked with these two parameters, and it has returned the account ID. So if I go to my accounts here, it's created now. So this is the second way to create data from SOAP integration. Now I have given you an actual code example as to how to call it from Java. So let's check out the SOAP here. Yeah, SOAP account. So it has created, this is the account which has got created from the SOAP web service, which is awesome. Okay, so try the steps, go back and stop the video here, retry the steps again, create a new project, download